Starting the stream. And we are live.
Great. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Tonight, we got some exciting stuff to talk about. Got our first Halloween, what we call it, October of Fear movie. And that was a bunch of other stuff. It's been an amazing week in the world. Probably not going to talk about any politics, so we're your refuge from that. Actually, we probably might.
Did you get a text from the president?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was glad to receive his warning. There's an emergency that I probably am responsible for. He told the premier of some country to go fuck himself, and now because I am Trump. We are Trump. Yeah, I got that. That was weird. I think they've been trying to make that work for like years, and this is the first time they've tested it.
Yeah.
Because supposedly it was there for a long time, but it didn't work on every carrier and every phone the same way. Because people with phones that were more than 5 years old didn't get it.
Huh.
A lot of people didn't. I know that didn't get it. So
That's interesting.
I'm just jealous because it's like you can't make a phone last 5 years. Shit. My battery's always going dead or something.
Yeah, it's just like nobody's fucking watching TVs anymore. At least not like live broadcasts where they'd happen upon the emergency information. So.
Yeah. Most people would think it was fake anyway. I'll believe the missiles are coming when I see mushroom clouds. Okay. Report back to us when you see them. Please. We'll be waiting in our bunker. But, I picked up a Christmas ornament that I just had to have. Usually I don't care. But this Christmas ornament came out, and I was like amazed. This is Hallmark's 50th anniversary, 2001: A Space Odyssey. HAL 9000. I was amazed that it's like Hallmark did that.
I like how it also serves as the monolith.
Yeah, I think it was written that way. But yeah, that was. I saw that and I was like, oh, I've got to have this. This is. But Hallmark does it. They had Firefly Christmas ornaments this year. They had the Firefly ship.
Yeah, we used to have get Star Trek ornaments, and we had like a small. We used to have like 10 Christmas trees in our fucking house.
Yeah.
And we had a Star Trek Christmas tree, just like 14 Birds of Preys on there and a couple of Enterprises.
Yeah. Well, they've always had that. I just thought 2001's like that seems like heady topic matter for Hallmark, but they did it.
They gotta expand that niche.
Yep. Yeah, they even play the part at the end where he's shutting down his memory system. It's like all the critical stuff from HAL. But basically, almost every line of dialogue in the movie from HAL is on this thing. If you press it. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, oh, okay. I always wanted one of those as my doorbell. Thing. Like people would come up and see that, and the light would come on, and it was a camera inside it.
What are you doing, Dave? I'm not Dave.
Are you stealing that package from Amazon off the port? You are, aren't you? You thought about the direction of your life.
It's just socks. Leave it alone.
Yeah. I had to replace our Nest thermostat this week. That was exciting.
Really?
Yeah, they sent us a new one.
Oh, okay.
The Wi-Fi chip went bad in it, so it just kept running out of power and shutting our whole air conditioning system. Because it got up to like 87 on Tuesday, and we had no air conditioning because the Nest wouldn't work. And I could short cycle it, where you just cross the fan and the power and the ground wire, and but it would just run the AC continuously. Like, that's not really what I'm looking for. $500 electrical bill. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But they're kind of like Apple. It's like, yeah, we'll replace anything that breaks, but if we're replacing this 2 and 3 times, I'm not going to be a very happy guy. It's like, I'm going to go back to the old dial with the bulb of it's like, that always works.
Thanks, Honeywell.
Yeah, thanks.
I think we tried to install a smart thermostat, but like the wires were all fucking weird back there, and then there's like wasn't the right ones. It's like it was like every color, but we didn't have like a purple green one. So there's like no way to get power to the unit somehow. I don't know, it was fucking weird.
Yeah, you get into really old stuff. It's I like those ones where you have to, because of course I learned a lot about it. Because I thought, well, maybe because me and Dad looked at it, we were going to install like a common power wire from the box downstairs, but I called Nest at the last minute, and they're like, "No, your Wi-Fi chip's bad. We'll just send you a replacement because it'll even if you powered it all the time. Because what happens is the Wi-Fi chip goes bad, and then it continuously searches for a Wi-Fi signal. That's why the power runs down.
Yeah.
Because it worked flawlessly since we got it, and then all of a sudden it started going dead on us. And it could never find our home Wi-Fi, so we could, because that basically allows us to control it from afar.
Yeah.
Like when it senses our phone leaves the house, it just shuts everything off until we get back, and, or lowers, or it like runs it at a much lower temperature for the cold than we normally would. But yeah, it's and then that way also, so the government can spy on us and control our air conditioning, whatever else needs to happen.
And thus your minds.
Yes. But yeah, so they sent us a new one. But it wasn't fun to be 87 outside with no air conditioning. The house gets a little warm. I mean, the house never got above 77, but it was like just 100% humidity. We had lots of fans going. And now, last night, tonight we're at frost advisory, frost warning for tonight. So,
It's October, so.
well, the spiders will be. I can hear them, as a matter of fact, right now. Coming into the house, you can just hear the crunchy.
We want to live.
Yeah, they're all coming in.
Nope, you're all gonna die.
Well, actually, I don't know if they can come in this year. I sealed up the house pretty good, so they'll find a way, though. There's always a way.
It's like dimethyl mercury spiders.
What's that?
Just some. I was reading about it. It's some really dangerous form of mercury that some scientist was messing around with. Well, I got not messing around with it. She had gloves on. Like a couple of like dots or whatever got on the gloves. Like not even but like that was enough to like seep through the gloves, get into her through her skin, build up in her brain, and she was dead in 10 months.
Oh, nice. That's great stuff. I still like the story of the Russian guy basically the guy that invented that. Remember that stuff they used to kill that, or they didn't kill him, but the stuff the Russians most recently used to kill a dissident in England.
Yeah.
That Novichok. The guy who invented that, like it ate through the pipes, or somehow he got exposed to a massive dose of Novichok. He's still alive. Said he saw spots in front of his eyes and he fell backwards and passed out, and then he woke up and he was okay. But it was the guy who invented that, because that's something like even worse than VX, they say. I don't know, but because we don't have it, because we're like, well, what we need 1% worse than VX? What the fuck's that gonna do? This is already human pesticide. It's like, oh, we got to make it more powerful. I think it's more persistent or something. I don't know. There's a reason the Russians made it. It was made in the Soviet times. It was one of the last things they did. And it's just the Russians always have to be like, our missiles are 10% longer, you know, that kind of shit. Like, okay, what does it hit its target any better? Is it any faster? No. It's just longer. Our missiles are much wider and girthier and longer. Great. Okay, well, I think we know what the problem here is, and it's not innovative missile design, but we have biggest missile. Still can't figure out how to make solid fuel that doesn't eat through the nozzles, but yeah, we have biggest missile.
Oh, is that what happened?
I mean, that's always been, the Russians have always had a problem with solid fuel throughout their whole missile program.
Huh.
They're what was it, in the 80s when they were finally, because a lot of their submarines were still using liquid fueled missiles, which is like insanely dangerous on a submarine, because liquid rocket fuel that mixes with seawater does all kinds of wonderful things in a closed environment. But yeah, they even their land-based was it the SS-18? I don't know, one of those. But anyway, they made a solid rocket fuel because that's a lot less vulnerable to, you know, being shot down or damaged or whatever. And they made it. It was so corrosive that as it evaporated, like you know how laser ring gyros and stuff work that guide missiles, like the guidance systems where the gyros spin and they keep it straight.
Yeah.
With the Germans, you know, they still use shit like that and satellites, and well, it was corroding the gyros. So when they'd go to spin up the missiles to test them, the gyros would just be frozen in place, which means you can't launch the missile. And it was about 40% of the Russian land-based ICBMs. Like if they had to launch them at any time from the 60s through the end of the Cold War, they wouldn't have fucking launched because their gyros would have been eaten up. And that's why they could only shoot them off during the day, and they could only hit targets. I don't know. The Russians were at such a huge deficit by the end of the Soviet era. It was, when you read the reality, and then you listen to Reagan, and it's, you know, it's like,
to ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire
whose missiles can't be targeted at night because they do that. But we must have a multi-trillion-dollar defense build up to protect ourselves from these people.
So the Russians get to be the Americans and we get to be the British. We'll bomb at night and they'll bomb during the day.
Yeah. But our bombs will actually work. That's why the one guy said, it's the guy who went after Weinberger, did that really aggressive interview with him. He's basically of the opinion that any time during the Cold War we could have won and won cleanly because the Russian shit was so bad that it was like, and everyone, a lot of people knew about it too. That was the real, because he's the guy who said like the biggest deception ever was the American Cold War with the Soviet Union, because he's like, they were so fucking far behind us. There's evidence and evidence and evidence of this over and over and over again. You know, there was, remember the missile gap with Kennedy and Nixon? It's like, there's a missile gap, the Russians are beating us, and it's like, yeah, there was a missile gap, but it was we had way more missiles than the Russians did, but that never somehow made it to the media. And then they say the Reagan stuff was real crime though, because you could actually get pretty good intelligence, pretty good live intelligence even in the 80s. And it's like, oh, all the crap they have in the 60s that didn't work, they still have that crap. It still doesn't work. And I mean,
also, we had just as many failures, just that we had 10 times as many failures for one success. So we could be like, we're so far ahead.
Yeah.
Don't look at our failures that you wasted your money on.
I mean, it got better, and it got worse. But at least the stuff we had, it was like within the realm. Like if we fired a nuclear missile at the Soviet Union in the 80s or the 70s, it had a 95% chance of hitting and destroying its target. The Russians, you were maybe 60%. That's why they had so many big, huge, multi-megaton warheads, and like Washington was targeted by over 20 different missiles. And it's like, oh, that's just fucking overkill. Well, no, they're just sending a message with that. The truth was, and they knew the truth was, it's like maybe one of those would go off, maybe two.
Oh shit! They all went off.
It's like, well, Washington just became the moon. But yeah, it's like, but we needed that boogeyman because we have all those defense industry jobs we got to protect.
I saw a new show recently on NBC called Manifest.
Okay.
Um,
Is that about the plane that disappeared and just lands at an airport 5 years later or something?
Yep.
Like that? Me and Stacy saw a trailer for that. Is this worth watching or not?
I like the premise. It's not very good.
Okay. Just interesting idea, shitty follow through.
Yeah, at least so far. It kind of gets worse. But there's only been 3 episodes, so. But I like. Well, what I thought was interesting at first, of like what I thought they were going with this is like, what if just one weird thing happened? What if this was just, instead of Fringe, we have a whole season of weird things happening. What if Fringe, it was just the one thing happened?
That one completely anomalous event. How it would, like the sum total of science would try to solve this problem.
Yeah, it just kind of like the butterfly effect of just one weird thing happening.
Yeah.
Like, I like that idea. There's some stuff like where like, there was because they're at an airport in Jamaica, and like some people got like this early flight, and other people got a late flight. So there's a kid. They're twins, but like the kid has like leukemia or something like that, or some sort of like blood cancer. That is leukemia, but whatever. So yeah,
664. There's like a billion different versions of it.
Bone cancer.
Ugh, that's a bad one.
So they get on this flight, and then like there's some turbulence, and then but there's nothing out of the ordinary happens. It's just you're inside the you're inside the airplane, and then the pilot gets on. He's like, oh, it was a little jumpy. All right, we're gonna land here, and then like he starts calling the airport to give him like his airplane ID and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, we need a runway to land. And they're like, who the fuck is this? Like, can you repeat your number? Can you repeat your numbers? Like, everyone's freaking out because 5 years just passed when they had this turbulence.
Okay.
So they're all presumed dead, and so they land, and basically the government is there waiting for them. Well, not waiting for them, but they get basically like debriefed. But yeah, and then they finally get to see their family, and like like the mother, like one of them, like it was like an hour ago, their mother was alive, now she's dead. The one twin is now a teenager, and he's still just a kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so all the ripple effect of that is kind of interesting. But then some of the characters start hearing voices, and it becomes like they start basically intuiting premonitions of things that are going to happen, and they start like stopping bad things from happening.
Oh, okay.
Now they don't just go. Now they make it confusing enough that it's not like they're not just saying like this is God. They don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But obviously people are reading into it like that could be a possibility, but it seems like too vague and confusing.
It's gonna become a flat Earth thing.
No.
Oh, okay. It's just
No, but it's like almost like what was that show? Was it early edition or something like that? It was a show where like a guy got a newspaper each day, and it said like all the bad things that are going to happen, and he had to try to like stop it every day.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's like an old ass CB. Well, it's not that old. It's like 10 years ago. It was a CBS show, and it's kind of just a pleasant, like fun show about a guy trying to help people. Kind of like Quantum Leap almost.
Okay.
So yeah, I like the premise. I don't think the show is particularly good, or at least not yet. But like because they start to have things where they start to build this thing where it's like, okay, this was done for a purpose, but you still don't know why. You don't know if it's godly intervention or extraterrestrial intervention or but like to what end is all this like working toward? Because in the second episode, there's this one guy who's like his son is in jail, and like they spend the whole episode, and they finally get the son out of jail, and it's like, all right, does that have any purpose, ultimate purpose? Like, I don't think so, but that's kind of like the show is them trying to find the purpose.
Oh, okay.
But like everybody who's everybody who's on the flight basically is like hearing voices or what. And they don't like hear like a voice; they hear their own voice, like almost like reflected.
Oh, okay.
From the future or something like that. But another episode, they just heard music, but it's all very vague, and they have to like try to figure it out because usually like the first act is them hearing the voice, the second act is them fucking up, figuring out what the voice is trying to tell them, and the third act is them actually figuring out what it was trying to tell them in the end.
I get a feeling there's a time travel aspect to this.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, but I think this is gonna be like we were sent from the future to stop global warming.
Yeah, because that's why I think they're like missing the opportunity. Is like, no, don't have it be completely meaningless.
Yeah, like what was the show that was effective? The Leftovers. Like, they didn't ever explain what happened. Just how everyone was so screwed up. Well, they were screwed up before, and this just kind of gave them license to be really screwed up.
Yeah.
But they did have one interesting episode with the lady that went around and did like the surveys of the disappeared or whatever. It's like, has your child ever been below the southern equator? There was all kinds of weird questions she asked. And it's like, oh, where does this lead? Oh, nowhere. It's just like random sample questions to try to find some connection between all the people that disappeared. Yeah, I don't know. That's on demand. I can watch that. Maybe I'll give it a look. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like offensive or anything like that, and it's on NBC, so like they can only do so much. But I don't know. I'm still watching it. I'm just like, I'm kind of just waiting to see like either maybe it'll get better or let's just see how bad it gets. I wouldn't necessarily say it's that bad. I just like I watch it and it's just kind of like missed opportunities everywhere. Where it's like this is such an interesting premise, and you kind of watered it down with the procedural.
Netflix, Amazon ruins it for everyone. Like, oh, this looks cool. No, network.
Well, yeah, because if they had released like the entire season at once, like all this would be smoothed over. Because like I'd be in episode 8 by now, and I'd figure out whether they'd figure out a better way to turn this around or what they would do with it. Now I gotta wait every week.
Mystery and the denouement. And it redeemed itself right at the end, and I figured this out all in a week. I hate that with the network stuff. I finished The Man in the High Castle season 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was. They kind of tapped the brakes about halfway through and became Man in the High Castle again. Because they disposed of a lot of the characters this year.
Okay.
The characters that had sort of become innocuous.
Yeah.
But and unnecessary. But the main character is still Juliana Crane and John Smith, who is now the Rice Marshal of America. But the whole aspect of like the American Nazis and that splitting from the Greater Reich, like that all they just didn't explore that anymore. It's like, okay, I guess we're not going our new direction now but it was good. This one moved along and was a lot more interesting than the first 2 seasons.
Okay. I saw.
Still manages to be dark and horrifying and brutal, but
maybe that's why I don't make time to watch it.
yeah, it's not for everyone. It's one of those.
Well, sometimes I like that stuff, but I think because I know what I'm going to get with that, I don't watch it.
Yeah, it's manages to be depressing and watchable at the same time.
I can't remember what. Not to get off topic, what's Amazon's next big show?
They have one with Julia Roberts.
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Working with PTSD people, but then it seems to run into. It becomes like. It almost seems like, oh, this is going to become what's that program called? What was the one where they did all the mind control stuff in the 60s and 70s?
Oh shit.
Yeah, why am I drawing a blank on that?
Well, I'm trying to think because there was a Netflix show that was like about that, but I never even watched it. Do you remember that? It was like a trailer where the guy jumps out the window.
Yeah, that's what was that damn program called? God damn it.
But are you thinking of a different one?
Well, it just seems like that. It just seems like it's not Project Mayhem. What is it? I gotta think of what it's called, and then my thought will come together. Everyone watch this magic happen live. No, what was that program called? It was one where they did the LSD experiments and all that stuff.
I want to say like Extreme 55 or something like that.
MK Ultra.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes, this seems like some kind of MK Ultra for PTSD, or maybe PTSD isn't maybe it's like what causes it is. I don't know. I'm reading a lot into a 30-second trailer.
Is that out yet, or is that still
No,
coming?
November.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their next big one after, because October is Man in the High Castle month, and then
And Jack Ryan was last month.
Jack Ryan was the month before that, and then I don't know what's coming out next. Said I have to divide my bandwidth between Amazon and Netflix. I do the Amazon stuff first, and then I'll do the Netflix. Anything on there that's interesting that I can watch. There's actually a lot of stuff on both of those that are interesting, but I'm just never going to have the chance to watch it all. So I pick the things that interest me.
Yeah,
But yeah, anyway, this season 3, Man of the High Castle, they've definitely like just kind of come out and said this isn't some maudlin, thoughtful kind of reflection on what would happen if the Allies lost the Second World War. Now we're a science fiction show. They've seemed to have kind of plotted that out a little bit, because now they're doing the Germans have invented what was it called, the Neuberwelt, or what? I mean, just it's a way to the Germans have figured out a way scientifically to engage the multiverse.
Yeah.
But what they found out at the very end of the series, because of course Himmler, he replaced Hitler as the chancellor, he wants to send armies through, because there's a couple things they want. They want the hydrogen bomb, because they don't have that, and they want to send armies through because they're afraid of these films where it shows the worlds where they lost the Second World War.
Yeah.
So they want to send armies into those worlds and conquer them too. And the actual Man in the High Castle, the guy who always had those films, they've captured him, and he says the reason you can't, because they put like 4 people in this tunnel and tried to send them through, and 3 of them, they just found them just disintegrated all over the tunnel, but 1 of them made it through because they had indestructible dog tags on them, and they're like, we can't figure out why some make it and some don't. And the Man in the High Castle said the people that can transfer between multiverses, their versions of themselves are already dead in those other universes. That's why they can transfer over to other ones. If you send someone where they already exist, the person you try to send will essentially be destroyed. And he says, and you'll never be able to figure out who's alive and who's dead. So good luck sending your armies through the tunnel. Kind of ends there.
So is one thing they're getting worried about? Are they discovering in all the other multiverses that they lose pretty much in all of them?
They lose in almost every one. And actually, the Man in the High Castle, because he's kind of like the wizard that he reveals a little bit, but not a lot. But he basically says the reason you can even access the multiverse from this universe is not supposed to exist like this. You have thrown everything out of balance. The Reich and the Imperial Japan were never going to be able to win the Second World War. Because see, in season 2, they show a nuclear bomb being dropped on Washington, which is why we surrendered. Where the fuck did the Germans get the nuclear bomb? And see, Hitler knew about these films. Well, he was always obsessed with these films when he was alive in the show, because he knew all about them. So it makes you think it's like, oh, he must have had information from somewhere about we've got to build this kind of weapon. That's the only way we can defeat the Allies, because really numerically we're just completely outnumbered. And there's no way they can win. And, which is the real World War II was like that. And they, so it kind of hints around at things, and then it becomes a drama story. And It's like, oh, who's Juliana sleeping with now? And every other character is gay or their gay lifestyle. We're in a time when you can be put to death for that. And oh, we're going to make all the SS people that are celebrating the destruction of the Statue of Liberty in New York use Trump campaign slogans. It's like, okay, I see. You guys are having a little fun. I get it. But yeah, that's so there's a lot of the cool stuff in this series is pretty cool, but there's a lot of filler in it too, where it's like we got to have this character has a story, and all these people are gay, and we have to have that, and then
Well, it is in San Francisco.
well, not most. Yeah, most of this takes place in Denver,
Huh. Okay.
in the neutral zone, and then you have and it ends in the Poconos, which is where the Naperville or whatever it is. I think that means New World. It kept trying to translate that as New World on my thing.
Oh,
Weirdly, in this show,
Nabenvelt or something.
yeah, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be like New World or something.
Yeah.
Velt is world, I believe.
Okay. Weirdly, in this show,
Because it's like because like Weltkrieg 2. That's World War II.
okay. Or as they call it, the weekend nothing bad happened. My uncle was in the hospital then, as they say in Germany. But yeah, because weirdly in this show, most of the German people speak German, but somehow all the American characters just understand them. So I don't know what that's. Himmler,
Chewbacca Nazis.
yeah. Well, Himmler speaks English a lot. And the guy who plays John Smith is one of those actors that he's some British actor, and he's real compelling just by staring. He's one of those guys that can stare.
Yeah.
Like weird shit will happen. He'll just look at the camera, look at the guy, and then it'll cut to a scene of him having someone murdered that he like ordered. Kind of like a Tony Soprano character. He's hanging out with his family, and then they'll cut to someone being butchered with knives. And but they actually have real life people now in the alternate universe, like because J. Edgar Hoover is the director of the it's called the AFB, but it's basically the FBI, but whatever it is in the American Reich, it has a name. So Hoover is a real character in this, and he's an evil guy. And then they had Lincoln Rockwell was the original Reich Marshal of the United States, or the Greater Reich in the U.S., or whatever they call it. And he was a real guy. He was a real fucking Nazi. He was an American Nazi. He was killed by his own people in the 60s. But he's a political rival of John Smith, who has him replaced and killed by colluding with Hoover, who he's like, yeah, I have all this information about you being a homosexual. Unless you want this to come out, then you're going to help me get rid of this guy. You know, so it's a lot of it's a good show. I mean, I watched it pretty quick, so.
Was it 10 episodes?
Yeah, 10 episodes.
Okay.
And then Himmler gets shot in the end of it, but they don't know if he's dead or in the hospital. It's, we don't know where he's going. So, who knows who the new chancellor would be?
Did he get shot on a parade route? Are they making him the JFK?
No, he was so excited by the riots in New York after they blew up the Statue of Liberty that he's like, this reminds me of Kristallnacht. I must go see. And everyone's like, dude, you don't want to be out here. There's all kinds of crazy shit going on. He's like, no. And then the resistance people were somehow they knew where his hotel was, and they just waited for him to get out of a car, and there were some guys in a building shooting at him. And then the Japanese, the Frank Fink is still alive, because he thought he was killed at the end of season 2. Because remember, he put the bomb in the Kempei Tai headquarters, and it looked like he was killed in the blast. And he's not. He's in the neutral zone, hiding out in there's a colony of people that it's ostensibly it looks like a Catholic like monastery or something with a bunch of people living in it, but there's all that's left of the Jews in North America. So he was hiding out with them and publishing art. But he doesn't make it past this season.
Spoilers.
Yeah, everything we talk about, spoilers on this show. So.
Yeah.
So, Mom, Dad, you know, if I ruined Marin the High Captain for you, I'm sorry.
See, I got two things. I can talk about another YouTube gun channel I found, or I could talk about Bates Motel.
Let's talk about the YouTube gun channel, because this gives me something to look at while you talk.
So yeah, because I've been watching it. It's just this one's like he's not like a crazy guy. He's just informative, and it's called Forgotten Weapons.
Okay, yeah, I've seen this guy.
One of the more interesting ones he did was about the zip gun,
Okay.
which is a very fucking weird gun that ruined a company. I can't. I want to say that like the company was in like Hartford, Connecticut, or something like that.
Okay.
I
I always thought a zip gun was code for like a homemade shotgun or something.
it might. Well, maybe it was called something. I want to say it was called Zip something. It was just a 22 handgun that looked extremely weird. Like when you look at it, it doesn't look like a standard revolver. Well, it's not really.
Yeah. It's the USFA Zip Gun 22 long rifle pistol.
Yep.
World's worst gun? Question mark.
So it almost looks like an FN90 where he's like, how do I hold that thing?
Yeah.
So the whole back of that is basically that's going into your palm.
Oh, this is a weird. Yeah, he's got it out now. I'm seeing it. This is a weird thing.
Um,
Palm gun.
yeah, they're extremely cheap. I think they're like $120, but it's just a 22 long rifle pistol. So yeah, it's like almost all made out of plastic, like very, only just metal where you need it, like the barrel and a couple other things.
Very glockish.
There's not even an extractor on it, which I guess is why it jams pretty regularly.
Yeah, you think you'd need that?
Yeah, I think it shows the guy operating it, and like it would operate with with basically under specific conditions. Like if it had a certain grain bullet, like it would work with, but like it wouldn't work regularly.
Oh, okay.
And then like kind of the interesting backstory of the whole thing is that the guy just had this idea for this weird gun. The company was known for making like the best single action army replica.
Okay.
And so he sold all that stuff they used to make those to like rev up production for this thing. And then this thing failed, and then so the company went under.
I see.
And that one company, that Standard Manufacturing, now they're kind of making the new best single action army. I think they got all that shit from this company.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're basically using a Ruger rifle magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is. That's a Ruger, because I have a Ruger 22 rifle that uses that same kind of little.
I think when he tested it, it didn't work, but because there's like a weird drum mag that goes in there regularly, but you can put that Ruger mag in there, but it doesn't work, or it doesn't cycle properly. And
I like how you put your hand in front of the muzzle to action this weapon back. Like that's a great idea.
Yeah. So essentially, like normally like you'd have the cock it back. But so this doesn't have that. There's like these two levers up front they used to cock the gun.
Yeah.
And they're like right next to the fucking barrel.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
And there's
you want your hand as
yeah
the gun.
And so there's two of them. There's one that's like full length. There's one of them that's like half length. And like the half length one, I can't remember what it does. It like, I think that's supposed to like if there's a jam that would like get it out, but also. If you only like cock it halfway, there's like a safety mechanism, so then you can't pull the trigger after you only half cock it. So a lot of weird like safety things that are ultimately defeated by putting your finger near the fucking barrel of the gun.
Yeah, it's like great idea, except for the whole finger getting blown off thing. Yeah, this thing's just jamming left, right, and center. Oh wow.
So yeah, then
I've not seen this gun before.
you shouldn't. It's terrible.
Forgotten.
And they show the manual too, and like they were trying to sell it as like a like they show it attached to the the bottom rail of an AR-15. Like this is like when you're reloading, this is right there to use that.
It's my 22. This is for obtaining milk from the store.
Yeah, that whole thing was ridiculous. You know, and I guess like this guy just like had this company at his whim to do this stuff with, so that's why like nobody like told him like, hey, this might be a bad idea. Like,
Yeah, nobody.
he didn't have marketing or anything like that. He just had a lot of money in a company. He was like, I want to do this shit. Because I think that guy also had other business ventures, so he had room to fail this business.
Yeah, room to fail.
And then he covers like a, I don't think the AR-10 video was kind of interesting, but I don't think I really paid attention enough to that one. It's like a M16, but it fires a 7.62, so it's almost more like an FAL, or almost more like an FAL rather than an M16,
Yeah.
but it looks like an M16.
Just beefier M16. Bigger round.
And like the interesting thing about that is that really it was made as like a selling point to like dictatorships.
Okay.
Because
Like, you have these bullets already.
you have these bullets already, but also it's like to sell a rifle to like a country, you know, you have to go through a lot of like, you know, red tape, meetings, all that stuff. But if you go to a dictator, all you gotta do is sell the weapon to him.
Yeah. Perfect. Not a lot of paperwork or end user certificates on that.
So like a lot of the like design around that weapon is like just selling to banana republics and shit like
Oh yeah, gotta find that niche.
that. And then he did a couple ones on the bullpup one. So I think he did one on the, is it the LAR? It's the British bullpup battle rifle, main battle rifle, or at least currently. I think they're getting rid of it. That one he covered. There's like he covered like the original one, which like had a lot of bad things with it, like just
stamped metal one. Yeah, that thing was.
And then eventually, I think they gave it to like HK, and then like they did a better version of it, but like he was like reviewing the original version of it.
Yeah.
And that stuff was kind of interesting. And then he did the FAMAS, which that one's really interesting, because like the thing with the LAR is that you had to shoot it right-handed. There was no way around
Yeah.
it. So because the bullets would be ejecting right into your fucking cheek.
Right. Yeah. Going off to your head.
So he did the FAMAS one, which is the French battle rifle, which both these are going to be replaced, but these were adopted like in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
So a lot of similar, you know, it's bullpup design, a lot of similar stuff, but that one you can switch it to be a left or right-handed weapon.
Okay.
And it's pretty interesting because if it in the bolt there are two extractors, but one is like a dummy extractor.
Okay.
And then you just switch the extractor the way where you want the bolt to be extracted to. You can like take them out and swap them. And then there's like a cheek piece that just comes off, because there's like, if you take the cheek piece off, there's just two holes in the rifle, and then you just switch it over to the other side, and then like you can make it an ambidextrous rifle, which that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know. Like I remember I've seen that in like video games before, but it's like, oh, like it's a bullpup design, but yeah, this guy like takes it apart and explains everything. It's like, oh, that's a bit more interesting than I thought it was.
Yeah. The French one was always interesting. I think the only people that are going to have a bullpup rifle in the next 10 years is the Israelis just introduced the Tavor like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be the last because everyone else is getting away from them, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Because they're, well, it's a good way to deafens you. Because the bullet is going off right near your head. It's never a good thing. Because I fired one of those, the FN 2000.
Yeah.
Kind of a polymer. And it was kind of cool because it was weird because it's like my AR-15, but it's a lot shorter and you have a lot more movement with it. And you're shooting and you got earplugs and shit on, of course, and safety glasses. You don't really notice it. But then after shooting it enough, you're just like, my teeth feel weird because you're actually just—it's like right next to your head all the time, going off, and it's like, oh, this is grating. This sucks. But they're easier to transport, and you get the longer, barrel length's the same, just in a shorter package.
Yeah.
But we don't like them, and a lot of people don't like them, and my experience with them is like, oh, I can see the one small aspect of physical discomfort I don't like, but I know there's some reason our military doesn't adopt them at all.
I think that they have problems when going prone just because of where the magazine sticks out. But like a magazine's going to stick out anyways. It's just like how when you go prone, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I've never used one, so I don't know.
I've just shot one like 300 rounds through. The FN 2000 was the only one that they had a FAMAS there, but it wasn't working at the time. Firing pin was broken, so it was one of those places where you could rent guns and shoot them.
Oh, okay.
And I knew the guy, so it was like, well, I got to charge you for the gun, but the ammunition's free because he just didn't give a fuck. I was like, okay. So it's like $24 to rent the gun for an hour, but all the bullets you can shoot because he wasn't charging me for them. So it's like, let's shoot this weird thing. Let's shoot that weird thing. And they had a Calico there, but
was that the pistol with like 100 rounds in it?
Yeah, but too many people were waiting to use it. So what did I finish with that? I finished with another FN, the 7mm, the one that shoots little tiny bullets.
Oh, the F7 or 5.7?
Yeah, 5 and 7 or whatever. Yeah.
Or the handgun or the
handgun.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a fucking like industrial tack driver or something, like a weird looking gun. It looks like a construction tool, not.
Oh, it looks like it was built in space.
Yeah. And it's snappy. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing right about it either. So.
What was it? You can put like 30 rounds in a mag, and it'll defeat body armor, or at least some body armor.
It won't. Yeah, I don't know. That was a rumor.
Well, isn't that what it was designed to do?
Well, yeah, if you put tungsten penetrator rounds for it, yeah, we'll do that. But that will also do that in a 44 Magnum if you put tungsten rounds in it. So anytime you're shooting tungsten carbide, it's gonna go through stuff.
Well, it's just, I don't know. It's because it's a rifled pistol round. Well, I guess they used that round in the same in the FN 90. They use the same round. So.
Yeah, it's a modular round. You can build any weapon system around it. Just the longer the barrel, the more velocity. But it was an interesting little gun. There was nothing wrong. It was expensive though.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, this is cool. I might like this for the quirk factor, and then I realized, oh, I could have a fucking nice, like 45 custom for the price of this. No, I'll make 45. And I don't.
It's just the gun I bring to the range to start a conversation.
Yeah. And I don't think it was initially illegal for concealed carry here. I think that's changed.
Oh, yeah.
I think initially you couldn't carry it because it was like seen as something new, and it might threaten our law enforcement people.
Oh, okay.
But I think that I'm talking about shit that happened 10 years ago, so I'm essentially talking out of my ass. So. But yeah, I remember firing one and thinking that's kind of cool, but not worth the money. And the ammo is horribly expensive for it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not cheap. No ammo's cheap. But
and can you get it easily?
At a gun store, you can.
Okay.
You're not going to Walmart and it's like, yeah, give me some 5 and 7, some tungsten cores and some. Yeah, I'll mix every other one with a. What are those called? Tracer rounds. Yeah. Give me the phosphate core with the cyanide tip. Deer hunting.
My dear wife.
Deer annihilation. But yeah, they have. I mean, they made switchblades legal. They made a whole rash of stuff legal here that wasn't legal here before. Might have been made for a gun store lately.
Are nunchucks weirdly still illegal?
In Michigan, I know switchblades are legal now, and you can have longer knives here than you could before. but I think any kind of like blunt force trauma weapons are still on the no-no list. But you can have a Glock with like 20 hollow pointed rounds in it, and that's cool. But samurai swords are out. It's like, wait a minute. They're both going to kill someone, but you're not going to kill like them and 20 other people with a samurai sword unless you really are a ninja.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
Never have to reload.
Yeah, you don't have to reload a knife. Yeah, but the 20 guys with guns don't have to have that same time either. So, still like it when they shoot swords. Like they get a guy. They did that on Forged in Fire once, where they split a bullet across swords that guys made. I mean, you have to line it up. It's all done, like because the guy walks up and he's pulling a string that's connected to the trigger of the gun and stuff because it's all lined up. But yeah, they do. The sword, it will just wink. He'll flick the bullet in half. Of course, if they said if it wasn't made right, it'd break the sword. But both of these guys.
That was a funny part in Deadpool 2. It's in the trailer, but like Cable shoots at him and like, it goes into slow-mo as he slashes the bullet and splits in two. And it just cuts back and he just unloads his clip at him and he's like trying to slash all the bullets, but he like misses like half of the he just gets shot up.
A lot of bullets. That's
So yeah, then I've been watching Bates Motel.
okay.
Because I got on this kick because I watched the review from Red Letter Media of Psycho, and they did the whole series, and they kept referring back to this show. But he specifically said like the last two seasons is when it gets good.
Yeah.
So I'm on the third season right now, and I guess I have to agree. There's a lot of good performances, but the show is kind of poorly done at times.
Yeah.
At least, I don't know, like Vera Farmiga is really good in the show because she's Norma Bates, the mother of Norman Bates.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a pre-boot.
Okay.
A prequel reboot, but also it takes place in modern times. Although if you look at all the sort of advertising material for it, you wouldn't know that because her and Norman kind of adopt a 1950s style.
Okay.
But it is modern day times.
Oh, I see. So it's just like the hotel. I think me and Stacy watched the first season of this because it was a couple of years ago it came out.
Yeah. Yeah, it came out like 5 years, or no, maybe it was 7 years ago.
It's been a while.
Well, because was it Eddie Highmore? I think he plays Norman Bates. He was the kid in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory reboot.
Okay.
And now he's like a grown ass man, which is kind of weird because now he's also he took this role and then now he's there's that show The Good Doctor where he plays like the autistic doctor.
Okay.
So he's like it's a CBS show. It's network, so you wouldn't.
Yeah, why would I know about it?
So it's kind of weird that this guy, he's taking these kind of complicated roles on television that could last years.
Yeah.
Because he plays Norman Bates is a pretty complicated character. It would be pretty easy to screw up. He does a pretty decent job with it. Vera Farmiga, she's great because what you would expect from her character is that she'd be like some kind of like strong, overbearing mother who hates men and sex and all that stuff, and like it's not her character at all. like what would you expect the character to be?
I lost you completely.
Oh.
You said Vera, and then we're doing our weird slow time again, where you fade in and out.
So what would you expect Norma Bates to be like?
Just controlling, manipulative, crazy woman.
Yeah. So she's not really like that at all.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, she can be manipulative and controlling. With Norman, because they have to make that weird, and it is. Oh.